Let's see. What do we want to do here? There we go. Let's see here. There we go. And now we're going to close all this out. There we go. There. Now, in the event that somebody actually shows up, I will be all set. I will be all set, and we're going to check this and that. Oh, the Lord 7th. Yes, hello, Nicholas. I am here. After long last. It has been a long time. In fact, I think August 7th was the last time that I actually was able to be here. So, yay? Maybe. We'll see. We got about 4 minutes before this thing kicks off. We'll see if the usuals actually show up. Some of them might have thought I died. They might have thought I died. By the way, you can see, for those who are always, oh, seventh bald, you can see my hairline right here. There's my hairline. It receded and then it stopped right there. I still have hair. I just shave it all off, you see. I shave it all off so I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. It is true that the top grows in a little bit slower than the sides, but it all grows in, and it's a pain in the ass. So I don't deal with it anymore. I just shave it off. I just hadn't gotten around to shaving it today. I had other stuff I was doing, so yippee. Juggernauts. I've also got like what looks like a little bump right there. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if maybe I got a little bump there. Weird. Hello, Juggernauts. How goes it, sir? We're going to be starting in about 3 minutes. And we've got a lot to discuss. A whole lot, because I haven't been around. I have not been here. Well, I've been here, but I haven't been here. You know? Oh, excuse me. Here. Here. I have not been here. I have been elsewhere. But not here. Even though here, yes, as in here in this house in Texas, but not here. In front of all of you. I have not been. It has been a while, yes. A long while. It's been, 6 weeks? Good God. Oh, Lord. But we'll be starting in 2 minutes, and I will explain everything. In great exhausting detail, shall I explain everything. Where I have been, what has been going on, why I have been incognito. Although, if you follow me on Twitter, I haven't been that gone. I'm always on Twitter in one way or the other. I may not always be posting, but I'm always reading. But we will discuss everything. We're just waiting for the official start of the show. So that'll be kicking off here in just a second. You know, I really need to get some kind of a intro or some preview thing that plays before I actually start, so y'all aren't sitting listening to me while I'm setting up all my little things. I really ought to do that, but you know, I'm a lazy fat so-and-so, so I can't really do that. I Can't really do that. I don't have the gumption. I don't have the get up and go. Because I'm an old man. I'm an old man that can't cut the mustard no more. Oh, my neck popped. Hello, Ultra Steel. It popped really bad. I have magic powers. Well, it is Saturday. It is 6 o'clock. September 18th, 2021. And this is the 7thCast. As always, I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is off in his room doing 8 things. He beat Deathloop like yesterday or the day before. I can't remember now. He beat it in 9 hours. That ought to pretty much tell you. Yeah. So, hello, Titanfall Princess. Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Let me know if you end up getting that game I sent you the video for. Let me know if it's any good. I tend not to buy digital games unless they're like, $5 to $10. I don't really spend $17 to $20 on digital games. But, I know you like that retro stuff like I do, so I figured, if you were looking for something to play, you could let me know if it was worth a crap. 7th, did you know that last year Black Baron got COVID? I'm just glad he survived. There's been so many people that have gotten sick with it at this point that I've lost count. I can't keep track of them anymore. I mean, I haven't caught it. 8th hasn't caught it. We're both double shot. We both got that Pfizer shot. Both shots. And, haven't had as much of as a sniffle. I've had other things that I'll get to in a minute, but JD33 popping in. Hello, sir. So where have I been? I have had about to grind some Battlefield 4. Good for you. I have had a very rough 6 weeks. Very rough. Where to begin? I think where we left off the last time I was here, the dog was getting surgery. Was expecting the dog surgery to be $300. It ended up being twice that. It ended up being $600. And there's a lot of things going on at work. They're implementing some new systems. They're replacing some old systems with new stuff, the new hotness. And that requires me, because I'm involved in IT security and all this stuff, and training. That means that I have to be heavily involved in it, because I'm involved in knowledge retention and training and all these different things. And so I've had to spend an extensive amount of more work than I normally would at work, which of course I work from home now, so that means sitting here in this chair for extended periods of time. And of course, thanks to COVID, I'm already spending an extended period of time working from home anyway, but sitting in this chair for 9, 10, 11 hours a day, it doesn't do wonders for your health. One of them being your back, especially your lower back. And I have been having increasing amounts of pain in my lower back starting about 6 weeks ago. And it's just gotten kind of progressively worse. And I've tried to counter it the last week or so, trying to do stretches and various things to try, because I've read that it comes from extended periods of compacting your spine from sitting as long as I do. And so I've tried to do various stretches and whatnot, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it don't. And so I've had that on me. I've had my student loan. I had to start paying my student loan again, which has cut me down tremendously as far as my monthly fund money. I have not a whole lot now left until next March, when I can eliminate some more debt and I'll get another raise, and hopefully that'll balance it out somewhat. But up until then, things are going to be tight around here. And then on top of that, I get hit with this $600 vet bill, which took a huge chunk of what was going to be my spending money for Retropalooza next month. So, I'm not really going to be able to do much but walk around and look at things at this point. And then right around that same time, 8th got a job, and not 2 weeks into working this job, because he has a variable shift, it goes back and forth. I'm not always available to take him to work. I'm only available to bring him back from work. And a friend of his was taking him to work, and they got into a car accident. And 8th wasn't seriously injured or anything. He just had, sore shoulder and sore neck for a couple of days. And his friend wasn't seriously injured either. But it caused a lot of undue tension for me, because then I had to go to my boss and say, look, I'm going to have to start taking lunches again, because I haven't been taking my lunch hour for like 2 years to help out. I said, I'm going to have to start taking my lunch again so that I can drive my son up to work, because the person who was taking him no longer has a vehicle, and we don't know when he'll get another one. And after a while of that, it was causing a lot of strain, because it also meant that it was making it difficult for me to do the 7thCast, because he was working a lot of Saturdays, and so I'd have to be available to drive him up there and go get him and bring him back, and I wasn't going to let him sit there at work waiting for me to either to come get him, because I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I couldn't do that, and I couldn't cut the 7thCast off and say, I'll be back in 20 minutes and go drive and pick him up and bring him back home. I couldn't do that either. And so it's been hard. So much so that, I assisted him after he got a few paychecks under his belt in purchasing his own first car. The problem is that he doesn't have his driver's license yet. So he's got a car that'll be available for him once he gets his license, but he has to hurry the hell up and get his license, which has been a problem, because when we moved here from North Carolina, he lost his Social Security. Well, he didn't lose it. We lost it. It disappeared. And to get a driver's license here in Texas, you have to have your Social Security card. He doesn't have one. Well, to get a replacement, you have to have a state ID. Well, he can't get a state ID because he doesn't have a Social Security card. So it's been this big, round and round you go, just to try to get him driving, so that, he's self-sufficient and I don't have to be chauffeuring him everywhere. Which I don't mind doing it, but, time-wise, it makes things harder. And, I want him to be able to come and go as he pleases. He's 18 years old. He should be able to do that. I was able to do that at 17. He should be able to do it at 18. And so, I want him to get his license. I want him to get out driving. It's not it's not some fancy schmancy sports car. We got him a 2019 Chevy Cruze. So, nothing, 4-cylinder engine's a good engine to start to learn how to drive. And, it's a nice looking little car. It's black with black interior. It's got all the, Bluetooth stuff that he wanted in it and everything. So, I think it's a much nicer starter car than I had. I had a 1986 4-door white Ford Escort that my dad bought at an estate sale, because it had belonged to some old lady and she had passed away. Come to find out after he bought it for me, and I've been driving it around for a while, that she died in it. That was my first car. And believe you me, I got rid of it as soon as I could afford to do so. as soon as I could afford to do so. I got that my senior year, 1993. By 1995, I went out and bought another car. I drove that thing for 2 years, and then I got rid of it. So, let's see here. Let me catch up real quick. How you? I've been fine, Shadow Diaz. Thank you. Aside from the back pain, and I think I'm like not drinking enough water because, as you can see right here, I'm developing like dry patches of skin on my face. I don't know what's causing it, but it might be that I'm not drinking enough fluids. I don't know. Let's see here. So I already answered how 8th is. Better sci-fi western, Firefly, The Mandalorian, or Cowboy Bebop. Out of those three, my favorite's The Mandalorian. I never really got into Cowboy Bebop that much. No, as far as I know, I have not lost any weight. No. Every time I do a 7thCast, someone says you've lost weight, and I haven't lost any weight from the previous one that I did. Can you say finally the 7th has come back to YouTube? No, because I can't do The Rock's voice. It's a relief that 8th was okay overall for that. Thank you. 7th is Rick and Morty. 8th loves Rick and Morty. I've seen it because I watched it with him, but it's not exactly my favorite show. No. How would the PS3 have panned out if Sony had never replaced the prototype Boomerang controller? Probably not very well. Do you think PlayStation Showcase will be a yearly thing? I don't know. Did you get the PS5 yet? I have 2. 8th has 1 and I have 1. Also have 2 Xbox Series X's. 8th has 1 and I have 1. But anyway, that's what's been going on. And because of that, I mean, it's, I still have a little bit squirreled away for 8th's Christmas fund, which he hasn't asked for anything super expensive because of the fact that he has his own job now. He's asked for some books and some records and things of that nature. $10 from Fakered. Thank you, Fakered. Fakered. That's when you spend all night having sex with your girlfriend, and you turn over and you're like, so how many times did you come? And she looks at you and she goes, Fakered. Anyway. So, do I have the dollar bill? Let me see. Let me give Faker the dollar bill real quick. Let me see if I've got the dollar bill on here. Yeah. There you go. Dollar bill for you. Thank you, sir. So, long story short, anything that gets donated up here is going to go towards Retropalooza next month. If I can buy me a couple of NES carts, I'll be happy. That'd be it. And trust me, when I do go, both 8th and I are going to be N95 masked the whole time, rubber gloves the whole time. We're not taking chances because I have friends at my job who half of their team, their entire team got the Pfizer shot, the same one I did, both shots. Half the team still caught COVID. They didn't go to the hospital. They didn't get sick. They got a sniffle. They got a cold, but they tested positive. And so, it's still possible to catch it even if you got the shot. So I'm not taking any chances. I'm masking up and I'm gloving up because, type 2. I'm in the danger zone. Overweight with type 2. I'm one of those guys that catches it and don't come back from it. So I ain't taking no chances. Nice. Good thing I donated. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So, which you can tell I'm out of practice for all this, right? This is a 3-hour podcast, runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central. This can be extended by donation. If we hit $50, I stay till 10. $75, I stay till 11. Anything 100 and up, I stay for an ass blistering and now back-breaking 6-hour stream. So there you go. Anyway, that's why I haven't been around. It's just, 7th's law. Everything you can think of that could potentially interrupt me from being able to do this stream has happened. And short of me ending up in the hospital myself, of course. And I've asked around, I asked on Twitter if there was a different day that are a different time that I could do the 7th cast. What would everybody want me to do instead of Saturday night? And everybody's answers were all over the place. So that didn't really help any at all. And then I got to thinking about it, and 8th's work schedule can be all over the place, so it wouldn't really matter. Because that might help for a week, and then the following week, the day that everything went well, he'd have a work day. And so again, just got to get him with his driver's license, and then it doesn't become an issue. Thank God I'm still working from home, because my office was like, it was like an hour drive from here. It should only be a 30-minute drive, or not even that much. It ought to be about 21 minutes. But the traffic, no matter what route you take, would make it to where it took me an hour to get to work and an hour to get back home. So I spend 2 hours a day in the car. And so it's been a blessing not having to work in the office. I did not like it. And it didn't used to be that way, because they had me in one location, one office, because they have multiple offices. And for some reason, they decided to move me to one farther away when I picked this house out specifically because of how close it was to the first office I was working at. So I got kind of screwed on that deal. Now I don't have to worry about it because I'm work from home. And I've had absolutely no drop in performance or work output or nothing. In fact, my productivity has increased because I'm no longer spending 2 hours in the car every day. And so I've been able to give them additional hours that they're not even paying me for of work. But come March, I'll get, my usual little 3% nothing raise. And I'll get somewhere between a $5,000 to $7,000 bonus check, and I'll put all that on debt, and that'll free me up some more. And I'll keep doing that until I have the only debt that I have, aside from essentials like rent and stuff, is the student loan. I'm going to keep doing that until the student loan is all that's left. Because let's be honest, I'm going to die before I ever pay off that loan. I'll be dead before it ever gets paid off. I will not live long enough to see that student loan gone. But my car payment will be paid off in another 3 years. So all I need is 3 more bonuses. 3 more bonuses, and all my debt except the student loan will be paid off. And then I'll have well over $1,000 a month every month to play with, or put away, or do whatever. And the next step after I do all that is 8th and I want to go in together on a house. Actually buy a house, own that house, and I will take up one little corner of it. We want to get a big, like 2,000 to 2,500 square foot, 1-floor ranch house with a big open floor plan in the middle, and then bedrooms on this side, bedrooms and maybe a den on that side, and I will live on that side and just take up that little corner of the house, and the rest of the house is his. And so at that point, it'll become like an in-law apartment. And so if he falls for somebody and gets married or whatnot, I can be invisible over on this wing of the house, and they have the majority of the house all to themselves, and I keep to myself, and they only see me if they want to see me. And then when I die, the whole house goes to him, and he has a whole life, didn't have to pay for nothing. I paid for it all. On top of that, he'll get my 401k when I die, which is like, it's at close to $70,000 now. And then he'll get $150,000 out of life insurance from me. And if he decides he doesn't want to keep the game collection, he can sell that for God knows how much. And he'll have himself a nice nest egg to give him a whole new start on life. He'll already have a car. He'll have my car that he can sell off for even more money. He'll have all that other money. He'll have a house that's in his name. He'll be set. He'll be set, and I will be able to leave this world not having to worry about him. Hi, Smithy. Do you have a favorite memory of a midnight release for a game at GameStop? I never really did that all that much. In fact, I think I've only ever been to one midnight release, and it was for the collector's edition of Uncharted 3. And I went to pick up my collector's edition. That's the only one I can think of. Which was the worst, The Last of Us 2 versus Star Wars sequels? I didn't really care for either one, to be honest with you, at about the same level. Which PS5 SSD expansion card are you eventually buying? I don't really need one right now. I beat a game and I delete it. And if I want to play it again, I reinstall it. I haven't had any issues. What's your thoughts on common sense no longer being very common anymore? It's about the same as it ever was, aside from extreme political correctness that goes on these days, which we tasted that back in the 90s, and then it disappeared, and now it's back, so it's nothing I haven't seen before. What's up, 7th? Just got in here. YouTube didn't let me know you were alive. What a surprise. I can't imagine how that happened. Since you will be able to save up so much money, will you use it to update your YouTube channel? Update it to what? What's wrong with it now? Hope you live a long time. Yeah, I'm not expecting it. Sad you will never full own the house due to constantly paying property tax. True, Texas has rather ridiculous property taxes. Rather ridiculous. I mean, if I was smart, since I now work from home, so I can literally work from anywhere, if I was smart, I'd move back to Tennessee. They don't have those annual property taxes on the houses there. And the houses are cheaper than here in Texas. But there ain't nothing in Tennessee, and all of 8's friends are here. So I'm not about to do that to him. But it would be the far cheaper way to go. Anyway, y'all keep asking questions, and I haven't even gotten into the main topics that I picked out for today. You're killing me, Smalls. So, first one. I had the PlayStation Showcase about a week or so ago, a week or two. And it was a showcase. You know, what do you want me to say? It's pretty much the same as any other PlayStation Showcase, where they show, 2, 3, or 4 first-party bangers, and then the rest of it is indies and third-party stuff. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what their shows have always been, is what it is. You see, you had Xbox fans that were saying, oh, that was pathetic. Xboxes, they had 5 first-party exclusives, and they had this and this and this and this and this. Xbox, Microsoft are trying to convince everybody to buy into Game Pass. And they're coming off the reputation of not having any games. So, of course, every presentation they're going to have the first year of that console's release is going to be very front-loaded, because they want you to know that games are coming. It's just that games aren't actually here yet, unless you count the Medium, which is now already on PlayStation 5. They're trying to sell you on a bill of sales. That's not come due yet. Sony has never done it that way. Sony tends to do their stuff in almost like a quarterly phase, where, they'll show you here's everything that's coming in the next 6 months. And then here's everything that's coming in the next 3 months. And here's everything that's coming in the next 3 months after that. They just they stagger it. They don't show everything at once. And so now there's rumors that there's going to be another Sony show before the end of the year. We'll see. God of War looked great. I'm not a big fan of Gran Turismo, but Gran Turismo looked like Gran Turismo. I'm excited to see the Wolverine thing, because it's being done by Insomniac. And, the very first game I ever platted on a PlayStation platform was X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I really liked that game. Despite the horizontal screen tearing galore and the crappy frame rate, I loved that game. And so I'm curious to see what, the makers of Spider-Man do with it. I'm excited to see that. But I want to play Forspoken, because the gameplay that they showed, yes, it's in this big fantasy open world, but the actual gameplay looks like Infamous. I don't know if you've noticed that, but a lot of the world traversal and some of the combat that they showed, it looked straight out of Infamous, and I love me some Infamous, so I'm excited to play that. As far as recent purchases, we have Deathloop. We also have Tales of Arise. I haven't gotten to play it yet. 8th is playing it. Like you guys know, 8th always gets first dibs on every game. And it's especially going to be true now that he's going to be buying his own stuff. So, and of course, I've tried various things out on Game Pass. I've gotten maybe 70% of the way through Psychonauts 2. I made it to the big librarian boss that's kind of in the middle of this little town, and you're on this platform, and there's boats everywhere, and you're fighting this big librarian thing, and you have to kind of knock her out to where you can get the other versions of the librarian into her to take over. And I got to that fight, and I almost won the boss fight, and then I tripped up, and she got me. And so I took a break from it because I've been playing it for several couple of days straight at that point, and I haven't gotten back to it. Will you be buying more games with the money you'll be able to save? I wouldn't be buying any more games than I usually would. I'm not going to take that money and just blow it on everything. I'm not going to do that. I'm not stupid. Thoughts on Spider-Man 2? Well, I'm looking forward to playing it. Nice haircut. So should Santa Monica Studios transition God of War to Egypt? I don't know, because it seems like everywhere that they want Kratos to go is places that Assassin's Creed either has already gone or is going. They've already done ancient Greece, and then Assassin's Creed did ancient Greece. They've already done Norse mythology, and then Assassin's Creed did Norse mythology. Assassin's Creed has already done Egyptian, and people are asking for Kratos to go to Egypt. So it's kind of weird. So what else is going on? Oh, me and 8th watched Malignant. Have y'all watched Malignant yet? Oh my. Oh. I'm sure if you have, that one kind of caught you unawares there. Man. James Wan, what the hell? This is a man who really, really, really wanted to make a big budget version of a direct-to-video 80s horror film, because he borrowed from so many. That movie steals from Basket Case. It steals from a bunch of the 70s slasher films out of Italy. It steals from Nightmare on Elm Street. It steals from a lot of stuff. It's fun, but it's tonally all over the place, because they'll play it straight in one scene, and then they'll go for straight camp in another scene, where you've got that doctor he's the guy that played the derp character on Boston Legal, and he's like, he can speak through the radio telepathically. He can absorb the electricity in the room. And I've seen that actor not be that way. So I have to feel like James Wan directed him to act that way. That James Wan looked at him and said, pretend that this is a movie that has the word Vestron printed across the bottom of it, sitting on the bottom shelf of a mom and pop video store circa 1985. Ready? Action! But then there's other scenes where it's played completely straight. So it's just kind of tonally all over the place. And there's this weird thing that James Wan, whatever, does with his horror films where he'll show these, he'll show an external establishing shot of, the house, in all of his, whether it be The Conjuring or Insidious or whatever. And then you get inside the house, and they all look like the same house in all the movies, just shot from different angles. And two, the interior of the house is always way bigger than the house that they showed the external shot from. Magic powers. So it gives this kind of weird effect where you're watching it and something just doesn't seem right. And you're going from seeing this relatively narrow, almost duplex looking house, and then you get inside of it and it's a McMansion with this big, long, massive, living room. And so there's just sort of a spatial dissonance that takes place there that kind of messes with you through the whole movie until you realize the inside is way bigger than the outside. And I don't know if he does that intentionally to elicit that effect, or if he's just kind of found a floor plan for building sets for the inside of a house that he likes, and so he's just sticking to it. I haven't figured that out yet. But, who has actually watched Malignant so far? Show of hands. Who all's watched it? I didn't watch Old. I'm not a fighting game fan, so Clay Fighter's not really a thing on my radar. I didn't know Basherverse. It's going all right. Nobody has HBO Max? Nobody? Me and Eighth are the only ones that have HBO Max? Because I can spoil it for you. Oh, Lord, can I spoil it? I'm dying to spoil it because there's some things to say. The movie's hilarious, okay? It's one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. It's just, I think he did it on purpose that way, trying to create a campy throwback to an 80s horror film, but with a big budget. But some of the scenes, he directed them to try to convince you that he didn't do it intentionally. That's what I think. Titanfall Princess has HBO Max. Have you watched Malignant yet? Hi, video game lover. Bye, Master Chief. Do you think Insomniac is building their own Marvel universe? I don't know about that. Anybody? Here's the thing. It seems pretty obvious to me that James Wan or whatever turned this movie in, and the studio executives sat down and watched it, and they had no clue how to market this thing. Because they probably thought that they were getting a straightforward horror film, and instead they got something kind of sort of along the lines of a 80s era Sam Raimi horror comedy. Kinda. And so they marketed it as just another Insidious or Conjuring instead. And so you have people going into this film thinking they're getting another Insidious or another Conjuring, and that's not what it is. And it's pissing some people off, which I'm sure the director knew was going to happen. But, oh my. So, here's the gist, because some of you don't even seem to be interested in watching it anyway. So I'm just going to tell you the gist of what's going on with this movie. The movie starts out, and you see this woman, and she's pregnant, and she comes home, and well, actually, the movie starts out in a hospital that is situated a lot like the House on Haunted Hill, the remake of the House on Haunted Hill. It's sitting on the edge of a cliff overlooking the Pacific and has a very gothic, almost Twilight Zone Tower of Terror look to it. And it's some kind of a mental hospital. And they're having an emergency situation where a bunch of their orderlies or whatever have been killed in this room with this particular patient. And they go in the room, and you see there's like a plastic curtain, but it's semi-see-through, and you see what looks like some kind of hideous thing that's flailing about on the other side of the curtain. And that's where you get the dialogue about he's speaking through the radio with his thoughts, and he's absorbing the electricity from all of our devices. And the doctor who's in charge of everything, the camera zooms in on her face, and she pulls a time to cut out the cancer. And that's when the movie starts. And so the next thing you see is this woman, and she's pregnant, and she comes home, and her husband is this really bad 80s movie era abusive husband stereotype. And, you know, he's, why you interrupted me? I was watching the game, you know? And he gets up and, for no particular reason, is mean to her, and they argue a little bit, and he grabs her by the forehead and slams the back of her head against the wall hard enough to put a big dent in the wall. And she falls over, and she's bleeding from the back of her head. She doesn't call the cops, doesn't leave, stays right where she's at, still pregnant. And she goes to sleep, and something dark and black and shadowy follows her husband through the house and kills him. So she wakes up, gets off lifts her head up off the pillow. Pillow's covered in blood. She goes downstairs and finds her husband's mangled corpse, and she freaks out. Meanwhile, there's been several other people that start dying in similar ways. And she starts having visions of these deaths. And when she has these visions, the surroundings that she's in melt away, like that effect from Silent Hill, to where she it's almost like she's teleporting to wherever these killings are happening. And the killer is all dressed in black, almost looks like the main character from Bloodborne, with this long black cloak and, a hood obscuring the face and long hair coming out of the hood and all this. And as it goes on, the cops are kind of suspecting her because she knows all these details about the killings that nobody else should know. And at one point, a woman gets kidnapped, and the cops decide that they're going to, because she keeps having these visions, the cops are going to hypnotize this chick to see if they can figure out, more about the killer. Because the killer shows up and talks to her at one point, and she has this memory that this is the voice of what she thought was an imaginary friend that she had when she was a little girl or some crap. So they hypnotize her, and while she's being hypnotized, this woman that was kidnapped breaks free of her bonds and is walking along in this area trying to find her way out of where she's been taken. And she falls through the ceiling, and it turns out that she was in the attic of the chick's house the whole time. And so, of course, the cops arrest her. Meanwhile, her adopted sister, because she was adopted, starts getting curious about things, and so she goes to find the hospital where she was adopted from her, and goes to this old abandoned hospital, is digging up records, finds a bunch of old VHS tapes. They start watching the VHS tapes, and lo and behold, you get the twist. And the twist, even though the movie has been kind of sort of trying hard to convince you that the killer is out there somewhere, as it turns out, the heroine of the movie, the main character, when she was born with a partially absorbed twin that's still alive on her back, and its face is on the back of her head, and it has these little wiggly T-Rex arms sticking out that flail around like this. It's the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen. And apparently this malignant little thing can take over her mind and control her body. And for some reason has power over electricity and stuff. And the doctors at one point, they decide that they can't fully cut it out of her because it would kill her. So they cut off its little flailing arms and cut off, almost all of its face except for this little bit part. And literally the footage shows them just taking that face and shoving it down into the skull and then closing the skull up. So she's been living all this time with this other person in the back of her head, not knowing it, because she lost all memory of it. And so when her husband took her and slammed her head into the wall, it woke it up. And so when it decides it wants to have fun, it just rips through the back of her skull and kind of props the skull open like a door and sticks its face out the back of the skull. And then it has learned to make her double jointed everywhere so it can run around like it's running face first, but it's actually running backwards. And they kind of go between showing a person that looks like they're running forwards and just has their clothes on backwards to scenes where the characters literally, you can see that the joints are bending the proper way. They're just bending backwards and whatnot. So it kind of goes back and forth between the two. And so then it divulges into this kind of cat and mouse chase with this thing that's taken over her body, which culminates in a scene at the police station that's kind of a mix of the police station scene from the Terminator and a scene from the Matrix, where she's in this big open room where all the cops' desks are, and she's just flipping around Matrix style, slaughtering the crap out of all these cops, cutting their arms off and throwing their arms at the other cops and shoving the knife blade up through their skull and chopping their heads off and all this. Must kill over 100 cops in like one scene. And the bodies are just stacking up. And it all culminates where she decides that she's going to go. It turns out that woman that was kidnapped was the birth mother that had birthed her and this thing. And so the thing decides it's going to go to the hospital and kill its mother. And at the last second, the main character, who's kind of trapped in this fugue because when the thing takes over, she's only able to observe. She can't do anything. She somehow, knuckles up and takes back control of her body. And so then you see that the creature thing is now locked in a cage in an all dark room, and she comes into the cage with it, and they steal lines from the end of Nightmare on Elm Street. The scene where Nancy is standing there with Freddy and she's like, I take back every bit of power I ever gave you. You're nothing, you're shit, blah, blah, blah. It steals that scene. And she tells basically the same speech to the thing living inside her. And then she locks the door and it says, you can't keep me in here forever. And she's like, when you come back, I'll be ready. Slams the door. It was so corny. It was so corny that it cracked me up. Me and 8th were having so much fun with it. It's a great, fun movie. But you gotta love direct-to-video, campy 80s horror films to like this film. You do. You're gonna have as much fun watching the screwed up, wacky plot as you are saying, okay, they borrowed that from that. They borrowed that from this. They borrowed this from that. It's just a whole homage to campy 80s horror films. And some of the where they even try to be kind of clever or symbolic is so on the nose that it too becomes funny. Like the main theme of the movie, they ripped the main theme of the movie off from a famous song by the Pixies. That's I think it's called "Where Is My Mind" or "Where's My Mind At" or whatnot. And so the main theme of the song is a play on the title of the song that they ripped. It's a play on the plot. The main plot is referenced in a song, the title of a song they stole from to build their main theme for the soundtrack. You'll hear it several times when you're watching the movie. You've all heard that famous guitar riff from that song by the Pixies. That whole little riff plays through this movie. They completely ripped off the Pixies. And I don't know if the Pixies licensed it or if they just took it. I don't know. But the movie's hilarious and you'll have a lot of fun with it. Just don't go into it expecting another Insidious or another, Conjuring or anything like that. Because that's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. It's that old movie basket case taken to its ultimate extreme. Oh, Lord. It was quite fun. Anyway, I'm done talking about that, so now y'all can ask me questions. Toke 64. I found Tokes' old video about you, 7th. Anybody want it? I still go back and watch it every now and again. Just for the fun. The new Candyman was garbage. I haven't watched it. I loved the original Candyman. I thought that was a great movie. I haven't watched the new one. Did you retire from going to the theater? 8th went with his friends to see Shang-Chi. I haven't been to a theater since me and 8th went to see the Sonic the Hedgehog movie back in like February of 2020 or whenever it was. Would you consider Malignant a Halloween flick? I prefer to watch scary movies on Halloween, but it is a fun movie. And I mean, it's got a lot of gore, so I guess you could call it a Halloween movie. Sure, why not? Yeah, I'm gonna kill you, 7th, with this bread knife. I'm gonna slit you from your nose down to your toes and then back up to your mother effing a-hole. Oh, Toke's cousin, man. Toke's cousin. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I'll never forget it. Always brings a smile to my face. What did I think of the new Matrix trailer? Not a whole lot, because it looks like it's kind of just redoing the original story beats. But we'll see. I'm going to give it a chance on HBO Max. Did you ever play Clay Fighter? No, didn't interest me. I'm not into fighting games. Said it 1,000 times. Mortal Kombat's pretty much the only fighting game I've ever really gotten into. That and what was that Sega one? Eternal Champions. I got into it for a little while. Have I seen It Follows? Long time ago, yeah. Didn't particularly care for it. It had some funny moments though. Yeah, we have that Trover Saves the Universe or whatever it's called. We have it. We have it physically for PSVR or whatever. Did you see a tease for a new Sly? I did not see a tease for Sly at during the PlayStation showcase. No. Oh, it's been a long time. Been a long time. Been a long time. Oh. Hey, California Cool. I gave full warning of what I was about to do. You could have shut it off and come back in 15 minutes. You could have done that. I gave warning. I gave spoiler warning. I could play Hades on Game Pass if I wanted to. I'll try it, but it's really not my kind of thing. No, I don't think Sony will clone the Nintendo Switch. I think if anything, Sony will probably follow Microsoft's model and start porting, making their stuff available over mobile devices. Did you talk about the PlayStation Showcase? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I feel like it's possible that the rumors are true and that we're going to get another one towards the end of the year, but I don't know. If anything, the only thing they really need to focus on now is just letting people know how they're going to respond to Game Pass, what their answer to Game Pass is going to be. Magic powers. That's the main thing. Yeah, Vita 2 ain't going to happen. You know why? Because it's already happened. It's called the Nintendo Switch. Seventh, if the Nintendo PlayStation ever did happen in the 90s, how do you think it would have played out in gaming history? A lot different than it did. What else have I watched lately? Trying to think. I've been watching a lot of stuff when I'm not, because when I get off work with the hours that I've been putting in, I'm so exhausted that I just plop down in the recliner and I don't even feel like playing a game. I just watch a movie or watch a series. I did watch that new He-Man show on Netflix, the one that's CG and is for a slightly younger audience. And I gotta say, I didn't hate it. I mean, it's a lot different than the original. Tonally, it feels like Voltron Legendary Defenders. Tonally. And they've kind of turned it into a Power Rangers type of thing because now He-Man, Adam doesn't just become He-Man, Adam becomes He-Man, and then all of his buddies transform into their own superhero too. So it has a kind of a a Voltron slash Power Rangers kind of vibe to it. And it's not that bad. I've had fun with it. And I don't know if it's the case, but the voice actor for Skeletor, once he starts, actually becomes Skeletor instead of Keldor, he sounds like the voice actor for Dr. Nefarious from Ratchet and Clank. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it sure as hell sounds like him. So, it's not that bad. Not that bad at all. Yeah, I already talked about Wolverine, Spider-Man 2, God of War. I already did all that. Are you a fan of Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer? I don't watch that shit. No. Thoughts on the ColecoVision? Well, I own a ColecoVision. I had a ColecoVision back in the day, albeit it was a hand-me-down. My cousins upgraded to an NES and they gave me their Coleco. But I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Because while it wasn't arcade quality, it was the closest thing to arcade quality you could get in a home console at the time. I mean, I was amazed by the Donkey Kong port on ColecoVision the first time I saw it. Because, yes, it's not arcade perfect, but it was way better than the 2600 version I was playing at the time. The ColecoVision was a great system. Controller could have been a little bit better, but God, it was way better than the 5200 controller. I have an Intellivision, and I had one back in the day. I was not as big of a fan of the Intellivision because its games didn't look as good as Coleco. And I didn't like the controller as much as Coleco's either. I didn't like the little disc thing. Thoughts on the rumors that the Batman will be an R-rated film? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Nice wheelchair. What are you talking about? I'm not in a wheelchair. Do you think Crash is going to be retired? I don't know. Did the most recent game sell well? I have it. I just haven't played it. I tell you, man, this back stuff is no joke. I'm getting stiff already, and I haven't even been an hour at this shit yet. Seventh, what are your thoughts on Review Tech USA? I feel like he's become more of an e-beggar at this point. He does YouTube for a living. I don't. I appreciate it when y'all donate. It helps for when I need to be able to review a game and can't afford to buy it. And it helps when I'm going to big events like Retropalooza. But, it's not like I'm going, my electricity or anything is going to get cut off if you guys don't bury me in donations. But he does YouTube for a living, so it's a little bit of a different story with him. I have made it no secret that I consider a lot of what he did to be as I coined it, news for views whore and drama whoring. And that's not what I'm about, and I don't really particularly care to watch that. When he does actual product reviews, I watch those. When it's like, you'll never believe what Keemstar did, or you'll never believe what Ricky Berman said, and all that kind of stuff, I don't watch that stuff. I don't watch that stuff. I don't care what one person has to say about what another person said on YouTube. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I don't find that entertaining, you know? And just regurgitating articles off of N4G and then, giving your 4 or 5 minutes of 2 cents on it doesn't really interest me either. But as a person, I don't have a problem with Rich. We get along fine. He and I have joked back and forth every now and then. I did get a little miffed at him at one point because several years ago he interviewed me about the history of the console wars on YouTube. And, I sat there for an hour talking with him. And then, like, a day later, he was like, oops, it didn't record any of it. And he never scheduled to re record it. He was just like, oh, well. And so, I got kind of pissed at him about that for a while. But other than that, we've never had any serious beef. Supposedly, the new Riddler is an homage to Jigsaw where he places his victims in death traps. Huh. Is that chair comfortable? I heard it's not. It's fine. It's fine. It's a gamer chair for fat people is what it is. This thing's steel reinforced. I'm nowhere near this much at all, but it'll hold up to like 475 pounds. And it's wider and more comfortable for someone of the fat ass persuasion like me. Let's see here. Yes, I saw the Irate Gamer and AVGN crossover. I wasn't impressed with it because, AVGN really was barely in it. He was almost like a cameo. So, and they didn't really go at each other or anything. It wasn't like an AVGN versus Irate Gamer thing, really. And so I considered it a missed opportunity to do something really funny, and they didn't do it. He basically just did his usual game review, and AVGN was just a cameo in it. Do you think they'll find... I have no idea who that is. I don't watch the news. Thoughts on the live-action Resident Evil remake merging the first two games into one film? I'm not in any rush to watch it. I've seen some of the stills from it and everything, and it just doesn't look good. It looks like somebody snapped some shots from a porn parody of Resident Evil. So I'm not in any rush to watch it. Worst chair you ever sat on? I don't remember that shit. Thoughts on Alan Wake remake? Do you think we'll ever get a Max Payne remake remaster? I don't know. It'd be nice. But I don't know that we'll get it. Oh, almost missed it. Hold on to what you got. Time flies when you're having fun, kids. 2 hours left. We've had $10 in donations. We are $40 away from the 10 o'clock goal. I'd like to have like $400 that I could spend at Retropalooza at the end of October. So we're only $390 away from that. Might end up having to sell some stuff or something. I don't know. Seems kind of counterproductive to sell stuff just so you can go somewhere and buy more stuff, What flavor is the vape? Just menthol. Just menthol. Good evening, Biggin. Are you concerned that PlayStation will start milking the Marvel Universe and stop catering to the core Sony gamer? No, not really. Not all that worried about that. Sony's got a lot of studios. Do you think a bully game by Rockstar where you play as a female would be a good idea? No. That's because it's a different kind of bullying. Plus, I don't think a game like that, male or female, would go over all that great in the current political environment. 7th, do women like guys who are down to do stuff with them and are open to try new things, i.e. joining them on roller coasters and going out to places? Depends on the woman. Just like there's all types of guys, there's all types of women out there. Some of them, they always want to be going out. Always got to be going somewhere. The minute you come through the door after work, you're going right back out the door because they want to go out to eat and they want to go shopping and they want to go do this and they want to go do that. Then you got ones that are homebodies that don't want to go anywhere and just want to sit on the couch and lay their head on your shoulder. It all depends. All depends. You just got to learn to get a feel for what type of girl that you're talking to, you know? Should Insomniac Wolverine featured X-23 and eventually make her a playable character like Miles Morales? It wouldn't surprise me. That's probably something that will eventually happen if it becomes a series. Have you watched AEW recently? I watched CM Punk's match. His debut match with, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, or whatever the hell his name is. You know, I watched that match. That scrawny little dude. What are your thoughts on the Soldier console? It's just another, Chinese knockoff handheld. Meant for playing ROMs on it. $5 from Stranded J. Thank you, Stranded J. Appreciate it. That puts us up to 15. 15. Thank you so much. I just noticed that my Streamlabs link is misspelled. Streamlabs. Rush over to Streamlabs and donate to 7th. What the hell? I gotta fix that. Let's see here. I'm curious about the Rockstar Sony exclusive. You mean the one that never happened? Agent or whatever? Thoughts on Venom 2? I want to see it. I liked the first Venom movie. I know a lot of people thought it was crap. I had fun with it because I treated it like a buddy cop movie. I watched it with the mindset that I was watching a really, really messed up Lethal Weapon, and so I had fun with it that way. Streamlabs. Sounds dirty, don't it? Can't get to sleep. Looking for something dangerous. Streamlabs. Oh my. My battery's going dead. There we go. What do you mean Sony never dropped the name? The name Agent was all over the internet forever. What are you talking about? It just, quietly got canceled without Sony ever officially saying, yeah, it's canceled. I don't think that one's ever coming back, sir. Especially after that Secret Agent action RPG came out and bombed. What was the name of that game? Oh, it was published by Sega. I can't think of the name of it now, but it was a Secret Agent action RPG, and it flopped hard. Alpha Protocol or something like that. Anyway, it bombed. Ever played Zone? Of course I've played Zone of the Enders. Have you run out of things to ask already? 7th, have you known anyone who learned another language by playing a game with text, audio, and said language? No, I've never known anyone who learned how to speak a language that way. Thoughts on Rockstar milking the crap out of GTA 5 for the past 8 years? You would think that GTA 6 would have been put out by now. Well, First, they put out Red Dead 2. So, as far as they're concerned, hey, we only put out a new game a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think people are tired of hearing about GTA 5. I don't think anyone, except for the folks that still play it online, give a shit about it anymore. It's kind of like Rockstar's Skyrim at this point. If you had a Game Gear back then, how many games did you have on it? I have a Game Gear now. I didn't have a Game Gear then. I skipped Game Gear and went straight to the Nomad, so I didn't have to have a new game library. I could just take my Genesis games on the go. I'm doing all right, Ben. I'm having some back problems, but I'm doing all right. Did you say your thoughts on Tales of Arise? Well, my thoughts on Tales of Arise is that I have bought it, but I haven't got. Well, technically, 8th bought it, but I haven't gotten to play it because 8th is playing it. So I don't have any thoughts on it yet because I haven't gotten to play it. I'll get to play it eventually. 7th, is it true that when 8th was a kid, you introduced him to Little Big Planet and that helped him with reading? Well, it helped him with everything. It helped him with, he was, at that age, he was around 7 years old. He was like in the first grade. And he was struggling with school in general. And I went and bought Little Big Planet and set him down in front of Little Big Planet. And, I played it along with him a couple of times until he got to where he didn't need me. And just a couple of months later, top of the class. Top of the class. Because it teaches math, it teaches reading, it teaches problem solving, teaches creativity, teaches reading comprehension, teaches cooperation with others. Little Big Planet was the perfect learning tool, and it just kind of, rewired something up here for him, and suddenly all of it made sense, and he started doing good in school. This is what it is. Yes, I bought it on disc. I didn't like Heavenly Sword. I didn't like it. Had a bad frame rate, and I didn't like the control scheme all that much. Yeah, there you go, Elder Steel. There you go. All depends on the game. I mean, if I bought him Doom, I don't think that would have helped him much at school. But Little Big Planet did. And most people wouldn't even consider that an educational game. Like, Mario is missing or that kind of crap. Nope. When did you stop watching SNL? Right around the time when Will Ferrell and all that that group left the show. That's pretty much somewhere in the 90s. I'm not skinny. I haven't lost any weight. I haven't lost any more weight than the last time you saw me. Did you like the old God of War series more than the new one? No, I like them about the same, just for different reasons. I like both styles of play, so that didn't really affect me that much. I did not like the new God of War for the first 90 minutes that I played it because you were so restricted. But then when you started unlocking the ability to dodge roll and started unlocking more abilities where you could do more, then I started to like the game. That first 90 minutes was kind of rough. I was like, is this really how it's going to be the whole game? Thank goodness it was not. Is Deathloop worth it? 8th beat it in 9 hours. So I don't think it's worth, $60 or whatever, per se. And the reason being, sometimes a 9 or 10 hour game is worth $60. But the only reason that it's 9 to 10 hours is because you're having to replay the same 4 levels over and over again to pick up pieces of information that lead you to go to do a different thing, and it changes the outcome of this and that, but you're playing the same 4 levels over and over again. It's just, reusing assets and trying to cover it up with a supposed time travel mechanic. But in essence, you are playing the same 4 levels over and over again. So in my mind, no, it's not worth $60 because it's a 4-level shooter. Thoughts on the Amico console? It's about twice as much money as it should be. There's no way that you should have to pay more than $150 for that thing, considering what it is and what it does, which ain't much. Thoughts on Wolverine? I already talked about that. I can't talk on it too much because all they did was show a teaser. I haven't seen the gameplay, what it's going to play like, nothing. I got here late. I know you already spoken about this. What do you think about Forspoken? Forspoken is probably, next to God of War, the thing that I'm most excited to play. Because, I liked Spider-Man, but Spider-Man 2 will probably be, more of the same to some extent. I mean, obviously, it's going to have new bosses and new story and whatnot. But, it's going to have very similar game mechanics. Whereas Forspoken is something relatively new, although its mechanics look very similar to Infamous. But I love me some Infamous, so I'm excited to play it. Are you getting the new... No. Kind of like Skyward Sword. You were playing the same levels, just... Yeah. I turned 21 a few weeks ago. Any whiskey recommendations? I never was fancy, man. I drank... I didn't drink whiskey so much. I drank a lot of rum. I was a big rum guy. Bacardi 151, Pelican Bay. Yeah, I drank a lot of rum. When I did want whiskey, I didn't get fancy with it. I drank Jack Daniels. Thoughts on the Nintendo 3DS? Well, we have one. We don't have that many games for it, but we have one. It's okay, I guess. It's a handheld. Shadow, that's a dumb question. That's why I didn't answer it the first time you asked it. Because you're just repackaging the same question, but you're replacing, one of the adjectives. Do you think a bully game as a blank kid would work? Do you think a bully game as a mother blank game? Just stop. I'm trying to think of another game similar to that Deathloop format with 4 level. Well, it's just a very short shooter that forces you to replay the same levels over and over again to, extend the length of the $60 game you just bought. Yes, the Vita was underrated. It should have at least had the same level of success as the PSP. It should have, but it didn't. Wii U failed for a lot of reasons. Not having a whole lot of third-party support was just one. Other reasons include bad marketing. There were a lot of people that to this day think that the Wii U was just an extra controller for your Wii. They just didn't market it. They should have called it the Wii 2, and then people would have understood what it was. But that's not what they did. Oh. Did I like the film Poseidon? Well, the film Poseidon was a remake of the Poseidon Adventure, movie from the 70s. As a remake, it was pretty good. I did not like the fact that Kurt Russell died in it, because it's never a good thing when Kurt Russell dies in a movie. You know what I would like? I would like a continuing series that is all about the character of Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, and just all the weird effed up adventures that he gets involved in driving his truck across the country. The Pork Chop Express. And that's what they could call the show. The Pork Chop Express. And it's just every week he's in some other town and there's some totally effed up thing going on. And his catchphrase would just be, "Why is it always me?" Have I seen Cop Shop? No. Do you think collecting for Vita is best and last year for Vita? I'm not sure I understand the wording of your question. Collecting for Vita it's a worthy endeavor. That being said, I don't really collect for Vita. That's an 8th thing. 8th thing is collecting for handhelds. And so, every time we go to Retropalooza, he's looking for Vita games he doesn't have and PSP games he doesn't have. Did you check out the Cyberpunk Viking horror game? I watched a video about it. I haven't played it because I don't have the money to buy it. Wii U was so poorly marketed, its hardware was dated within a year. Its hardware was already dated when it came out. It could barely do better than PS3 visuals, for crying out loud. Did you like seeing Fergie in Poseidon? Didn't even know she was in it. Must have not been that major of a role. I don't know. Oh. Oh! My gosh! Oh, and by the way, I actually posted it up a couple of months ago, but if any of you are interested, you can go to my Twitter page, and it's pinned at the top of my Twitter page. 8th designed a new 7th logo t-shirt that you can buy. If any of you had the inclination to be, wearing my logo across your chest, you can go to my Twitter page and go to the top at the pinned tweet, and that'll take you right to it. Why is the PS Vita still so overpriced? Because it's getting to be harder to get. It's getting to be harder to get, and the games even more so. Some of the games are starting to really shoot up in price because there weren't that many of them printed or sold out there, and so they can become, the harder it is to find a game, the more expensive it's going to be when you do. That's just the way it works. Or you can get it graded and then basically use it for money laundering and scam people out of millions of dollars. And plus, the COVID thing has caused pricing to go up too for used games because people, spend a whole year shuttered in and with nothing else to do, nowhere to go, and nowhere to spend their money if they were able to work from home. They were going online to eBay and buying up retro games that from their childhood that made them happy, and that caused overall prices on a lot of retro stuff to go up because of that. 7th, do you think driving a car without no front windshield would feel like being on a roller coaster? No. No. Because driving on a car, you're not going up and down 200 and 300 and 400-foot drops. Might feel a little bit like riding test track, but not a roller coaster. Because the harder it is to get something, the higher the price is. It's not rocket science, Shadow. The older something gets, the fewer versions of it tend to be out there in the wild, or copies of it, or whatever. And the fewer there are, the higher the price tends to be. It's just the way it is, supply and demand. Take, for instance, DuckTales on the NES. DuckTales for the NES isn't like super duper expensive, but DuckTales 2, which came out at the tail end of the NES, that didn't have as many produced, way more expensive because there's fewer of them out there. You can find DuckTales at just about any retro game store and any retro convention that you go to. DuckTales 2, not as common at all. Not even close. Did you capathay? Did I capathay? No, I haven't capathayed today. I capathayed yesterday, but I just wasn't in the mood to capathay today. Okay. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt now. Capathay? Have you heard of this Kickstarted game, Little Devil Inside? Nope. Not familiar with it. Not familiar with it. I saw a game on PSN that I want to play, but I didn't want to spend the $17 on it. But I recommended it to Titanfall Princess to try out. It's called Flynn, Son of Crimson. And it looks like my kind of thing, because I like to play a lot of those retro style platformers and such, like Owlboy and that kind of thing. And it's called Flynn, Son of Crimson, and it looks pretty good. But it was $18, and I didn't want to spend $18 on it, so I have not played it yet. If it shows up on like Keymailer or something, I'll request a key for it so I can review it. But you know, I'm not super popular, so I don't get many keys. You know, they don't offer them to me that much because I don't have that big of an audience. So, you know, every now and again I'll get a key, but it'll be to some obscure little indie game that I've never heard of. But, you know, I never get keys to big stuff. Hi, Short Round. How's it going, man? It's not just the horror games that go up, man. Everything, a lot of things go up. Have you seen how much Gunstar Heroes is nowadays? I have cart only, Crusader of Sentai, or Crusader of Sentai for the Sega Genesis. It's like, last time I checked it, it was almost at $400 just for the cart. Not even complete, just the cart, almost $400. Not a horror game. Are you hyped for Kena? I'm curious about it. $18, cheap much? Hey, when you're saving up for something else, you hold on to every penny you got. Have you played Puppeteer? That's on my list of games to play. I have Puppeteer on PS3. It's pretty good if you like, you know, it has kind of a Little Big Planet visual vibe to it. Doesn't play so much like it, but it kind of looks like it. Are you hyped for Kena? Some of its gameplay seems to be borrowed from Pikmin, and I never was a huge fan of Pikmin. 7th, do you think Nintendo won't be making another major console handheld until the PS? I don't know. I can't imagine they'll wait too much longer before the next Switch comes out. Another couple of years, at most, I would imagine. Hi, Alexis. Keep a close watch on Domestic Souls for the PS5. That game is going to be worth a few $100 in the next few years. Never heard of it. Did you enjoy Outlast? Not really. Did it scare me? No, not really. Oh, let me spend all this time running around and hiding in lockers and looking at things. Did you like the film Grave Encounters? Yes. In fact, that's one of 8th's favorite found footage movies. Second one could have been better, though. Second one could have been better. But the first one was good. That's why I said, at the most, 2 more years. I don't think it'll be 2 more years, but at the most, expect to see a new one, I would say, within the next 2 years. Are you hyped for Metroid Dread? I mean, it looks like a Metroid game. I have it pre-ordered for 8th's Christmas. I meant Tormented Souls. I haven't heard of that either. I haven't heard of it. Why? Is there a physical version of it? I'm assuming there is, since you say it's going to be worth a lot of money. Tormented Souls PS5. Tormented Souls, $39.99. I'm not familiar with this game. It's a horror game. Okay. Whatever. Whatever. Seventh, have you watched any of the Dan Brown movies? If yes, Dan Brown Symbols new series. No, I've never got into Dan Brown. He was the one that did what? Like the Da Vinci Code and all that. Yeah, I never got into that. Seventh, do you think Jaws 2 would have been a good movie if it hadn't focused on the teenagers? No, because there was never going to be replicating the first one. It's just not. Magic powers. Do you remember when Fat Gamer used to bash Review Tech USA? Well, a lot of people used to bash Review Tech USA. What was that line from that movie? He's like a cockroach. You think you kill him, and then he pops up somewhere else. What was that? Dark Man, I think. Do you remember that Michael J. Fox horror comedy? Oh, The Frighteners. You're thinking of The Frighteners. It's a good movie. Did you know Stone Fox Media returned to YouTube? I barely know who that is. You know what I was watching? Shadow. He's talking, I thought that movie was boring. You know what I was watching before I started the 7thCast today? It's a movie starring Anthony Hopkins. I think it's called The Father. And it's about a guy who's suffering from dementia. So he doesn't know what's going on. And so the whole movie takes place in the apartment where he lives with his daughter. And he's just, losing it. I was not bored. I get what you're saying, Ultra Steel. I don't know how much you could have done to make that movie better in quality, There's something about its cinematography that feels cheaper, too. There's a lot of elements to Jaws 2 that almost makes it feel like it was a made-for-TV sequel to the movie. Tonight on the CBS Sunday Night Movie. You thought it was safe to go back in the water. Nope. No, sir. Didn't like it. No, I didn't think the movie was boring. I mean, I haven't finished it yet. I had to stop watching it to come in here and you know, talk to you guys for 3 hours. But because we're not making it to 100 tonight, in case you hadn't noticed. But I was not bored. I'll tell you what I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to watch the new Dune. Every single review that I've seen who have gotten to see the advanced screening of it say that it's the real deal. And I'm excited about that. Even that guy Midnight's Edge, who's usually like an anti SJW movie guy, uh, he said that it was one of the most epic films he's ever seen. So, and he usually craps on everything that he watches. So I'm really hoping that Dune lives up to the hype. I kind of wish that they just made a 4-hour movie and not cut the first book into 2 parts, but it is what it is. Dune is a good book. I read it years and years and years ago. I mean, my first introduction to Dune was the David Lynch film from the 80s, and I didn't think much of it the first time I watched it. And then, like, in the late 80s, like around 1988 or 89, somewhere around in there, uh, I think it was WGN showed an extended 4-hour cut that had a bunch of extra exposition where the original author, Frank Herbert, narrated the film instead of the princess. And it was 4 hours long. And when I watched that version, I liked it a lot more. And that made me curious about, well, I wonder if there's a whole lot more, how much more is in the book that they cut out of the movie. And so I ordered me, and this was before Amazon and before you could buy books online, I ordered me a copy of Dune. They didn't have it in stock. I had to go to a bookstore and special order it. And so it was at Books A Million. I went to Books A Million and special ordered a hardback copy of Dune. And it was around 1995 or 96. And I sat down and read that on my lunch breaks at work. I kept it in my locker because back then, I didn't have my degrees yet, so I wasn't doing IT yet. And I read the entirety of Dune on my lunch breaks at work, and I loved it. Do you have a favorite movie that flopped? Tron. I heard people are mad at the director of Dune for criticizing the MCU. Haven't seen it. Haven't heard anybody say that. Did you hear Michael Keaton is going to be? Yeah, everybody's heard about that short round. Sup 7th. Hi 4th Prodigy. I'm going to read Dune tonight after the stream. It's a good book. I'd say the first 4 books are good, and then everything after that's kind of because it takes place thousands of years after the first book. It has this massive skip forward in time. But then some of that takes place in the 4th book, because you had Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, and those are the 4 that I like. And then after that, you had like Dune Heretics of Dune, some other one, and I think there was like 7 of them, 6 or 7, and one of them was called Chapter House Dune. I've read all of them. Didn't read any of the ones that his son wrote, but the only ones that I actually liked were the first 4. That was Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune. And God Emperor of Dune, there's a time jump in it between Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune because Muad'Dib's son, Leto the Third or whatever his name was, he basically turns into a half human, half worm thing, And so the next book picks up with God Emperor of Dune, and he's this big worm thing that's been ruling for like 1,000 years or something like that. And a lot of it has to do with like if I remember right, there was like people plotting to assassinate the worm god and all this stuff. I liked that book. I liked those four, and the rest of them I didn't care for much. There's been a lot of Dune games. There was, well, at least two that I know of. There was Dune that was mostly, at least visually, based on the movie, and it was kind of a resource management RPG type of thing. And then Dune 2 had no relation to the first Dune game, and it was a real-time strategy game that was actually the predecessor to the Command and Conquer series. They took a bunch of stuff they designed for Dune 2 and put it into this new game, Command and Conquer, because then they didn't have to pay for the licensing rights for Dune. Do you think End of Watch should have gotten a sequel? I don't know that I've watched End of Watch. If Breaking Bad did a sequel show, would you watch it? Well, it did a prequel show, which was Everybody Calls Saul or whatever the hell it's called, and I've never watched a single episode of it. Are you ready for the fall? Fall, winter, summer. I don't really care. I spend most of it indoors anyway, either way. Thoughts on why Carrie Fisher didn't age so gracefully after she wrapped up episode 6? Well, you see, long ago, in a cocaine straw far, far away, there. Well, I'll let you figure the rest of it out. Is Dune better than Princess of Mars? That depends on the type of science fiction you like. Princess of Mars is a lot more action, swashbuckling, Pirates of the Caribbean style action, whereas Dune is a lot more epic in scope, kind of almost like Roman Empire type things, but in the future, with a lot of political intrigue and that kind of thing. So it's two totally different types of science fiction. In fact, I would say that Princess of Mars is more science fantasy akin to Star Wars than it is science fiction. I've read a lot of the Star Wars books. I haven't read all of them. I mean, I read enough of the extended universe to know about Thrawn and the Emperor's Hand and Jason and Jaina and all that stuff. I read all of those. But then when it started getting outside of the Thrawn series and all of that stuff, I got less and less interested in them. Yeah, Better Call Saul. Didn't watch it. Carrie Fisher did the booger sugar, yes. And every other kind of sugar you can imagine. She even did a movie about her addictions. It was called Postcards from the Edge. And it was kind of a dark comedy about someone who suffered from a lot of drug and alcohol addiction. And that movie was about her life. Postcards from the Edge. She didn't star in it. She wrote it. Adam Sessler was part of that galactic cocaine journey, and he has aged okay. It catches up to you. It catches up to you. But Carrie Fisher, she went the full Monty. She tried just about everything. And, rumor has it that she still hadn't kicked all of her addictions when she passed away. I don't know. I didn't know the woman. I can't say. That's just a rumor. Depends on the woman, Shadow. I mean, I think I'm aging pretty good aside from gray in my beard. You know, I don't have a whole lot in the way of wrinkles or liver spots or anything like that. But you know, comparing me the way I look now to, 2009 when I first started making videos, the only thing that's really different is I got more gray in my beard. Other than that, I look about the same. Well, that and I'm fatter. I am definitely fatter. I'm probably 120 pounds heavier than I was when I first started making videos. Yeah, they pretty much ruined Star Wars. I mean, The Mandalorian is good, but I don't know if they can recover from that sequel trilogy. I really don't. That was bad. That was bad. That was hard to sit through. I mean, I liked The Force Awakens okay, and I didn't absolutely hate The Rise of Skywalker, although the more times I've rewatched it, the less I like it because I notice more and more things that are dumb and things that are rushed. It's like every time I rewatch it, I like it less. Whereas I actually still can sit through the Solo movie and not hate it. Yeah, Harrison Ford didn't like playing a lot of roles. He's kind of a cantankerous dude. I haven't watched the new batch because I never watched Rebels or Clone Wars. I didn't care for any of that crap. I tried. I watched that Clone Wars movie where they had to rescue one of the Hutt's babies. And I hated that movie. And so I never watched any of the rest of it because that movie just soured me to all of it. I mean, I still know who Ahsoka Tano is. Just because, I got familiar with her from what I had seen. But, it wasn't that exciting for me to see her show up in Mandalorian because I never got into the Clone Wars. Yeah, you really don't have to watch The Last Jedi at all. You can pretty much watch The Force Awakens and maybe just the last 5 minutes of The Last Jedi to fully understand what's going on in Rise of Skywalker because they retconned so much of The Last Jedi with The Rise of Skywalker. The only way they could have retconned it anymore is if you found out that Luke didn't die at the end. He just accidentally teleported himself to some dive on Tatooine or something. Oh, I'm having back and neck problems today. Getting old sucks. But at least I look good doing it. Yeah. Man, it's so dark in here, I almost look like I could be, a hologram computer on Red Dwarf. Yeah. Because I got the black shirt on and everything. What's happening, dudes? Holly. I love Holly. Holly is great. Yeah, they should have made Rise of Skywalker super long and cut it into 2 parts like they did with the last Harry Potter flick. So it wasn't so rushed. And things made more sense. Rumor has it they're finally going to make a 4th J.J. Abrams era Star Trek movie with Chris Pine and all that. We'll see. I wonder if this time it's going to have whales in it. Because they're basically just for the most part, aside from the first one, they're just kind of remaking other stuff that's been done in other Star Trek movies. Like, there was a lot of stuff in Star Trek Beyond that reminded me of Star Trek Insurrection, that Next Generation movie that sucked so bad. And of course, Star Trek Into Darkness was Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So, Empire Strikes Back is still the best Star Wars movie, yes. Have you ever seen that film with that snowman that R words the girl in the tub? Oh, uh, Jack Frost. It was called Jack Frost. Not the one with Michael Keaton. No. But it's called Jack Frost. And it has a sequel that's Jack Frost 2. And Jack Frost 2 rips off the Gremlins. So they have these little snowballs with spikes made out of icicles running around killing people. It's great. If you've never seen it, it's hilarious. Both of the Jack Frost movies are funny as hell because they're so low budget and tongue in cheek. I love them. They both crack me up. Is a critical hit if it happens 100% of the time? No, it's just a hit. Have you checked out Marvel's What If? Yeah, I've watched it. The zombie episode was okay. And I liked the episode where T'Challa becomes a member of the Guardian of the Galaxies. I liked that one. But for the most part, I've just been kind of Like this most recent episode with the bad guy from Black Panther. I didn't like that episode. You know, I can still remember I had several issues of What If when I was a teenager, and one of the ones I had was what if Ghost Rider was in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was a fun one because it was this cosmic version of Ghost Rider who rode a space bike, and it kind of looked like the space bikes from that Hanna-Barbera cartoon from like the late 60s, early 70s, where they were like space cops riding on space bikes and they had a little space monkey and crap. Used to come on with the Herculoids, I can't remember, and Space Ghost, I can't remember the name of it now. Oh yeah, I loved the Jack Frost movies. Yeah, that I found those during a period where I was intentionally looking for cheesy, crappy horror movies to review for this web article review series that I was doing, and so I would, I reviewed Jack Frost and Jack Frost 2 and Ginger Dead Man and a bunch of stuff like that. I love those movies. They're hilarious. To this day, if I happen across Jack Frost and it's free, like on Netflix or Amazon or whatnot, I'll watch it. I love how in the first one the way they killed him was they like knocked him off a roof or something into a truck bed that they had lined with plastic and filled it with antifreeze, and so he melts in the antifreeze. Did you like Army of the Dead? It was weird seeing Batista in a zombie. Yeah, I did like Army of the Dead because I went into it knowing what it was going to be. I knew it wasn't going to be more on the serious side like his remake of Dawn of the Dead was. I knew it was going to have more of a comedic approach and was just going to be a big, dumb action movie, and I went into it expecting that, and so I enjoyed it. Thoughts on Kevin Smith? He hasn't made anything that I've liked since Clerks 2, so I mean, are you hyped for the Hawkeye series? Not really. Not really, because he's not training his daughter to be the next Hawkeye. He ends up training this stranger that he just meets out on the street when he's got his daughter right there. And then they replace the actress who was playing his daughter with this other weird girl who looks like the actress that would normally play the dorky kid. Why did they replace her? Is because she's aged too much since frickin' Endgame? What gives? Yeah, I wouldn't have killed off Batista because having Batista back would have made sequels more likely. But they killed him off, so and no one cares about the female character that was the co-star. Let's face it, a lot of people watched that movie because Batista was in it. Yeah, I have zero interest in watching Hawkeye. Zero interest. Couldn't care less. Could not care less. Dun, dun, dun. What else have I watched? Have I watched anything else that was uh, interesting? Trying to think. I've watched so much stuff lately. Watched a lot of stuff. I started watching an anime series on HBO Max because one of you, I don't remember who it was, I apologize, recommended it to me. It's called, I think it's called Tokyo Revengers, and it has a time travel vibe to it too. And I've been having fun with that one. I'm enjoying it. I get the feeling that Kratos will be permanently killed off in Ragnarok and his son will become the main protagonist in future installments. I don't know. It's weird because it feels like it should be a trilogy, but they're saying that the Norse storyline will end with this game. That's kind of interesting. That they would only make two. Oh, magic powers. What's your favorite era of wrestling other than the Attitude Era? That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. My favorite era of wrestling is that period where WCW and WWF were going at it head to head. You know, I liked wrestling as a kid in the 80s with, Hulk Hogan and all that, but and back then, I wasn't super into the NWA slash WCW that much. I knew who Sting was and I knew who the Road Warriors were, and that was pretty much it. I didn't start getting into WCW seriously until the whole big rivalry started. And, I knew who Ric Flair was because at one point Ric Flair had, come to WWF for a while. And I had a cousin who lived in Atlanta. And he's a few years older than me. And I can remember going there when I was going to see him when I was maybe 10 or 11. And he said, "You watch some pro wrestling?" And he sounds just like Jeff. I can't do the voice, but he sounds just like Jeff Foxworthy when he talks. And in fact, his name is Jeff. And he said, not guitar player Jeff. This is a different Jeff in my life. I know a lot of Jeffs for some reason. And Jeff said, "You watching pro wrestling?" And I was like, "Well, I like Hulk Hogan." And he said, "Hulk Hogan ain't no real champion. Ric Flair is the real champion." And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Ric Flair. And I was like, "Who's Ric Flair?" And he showed me. And I was like, "He's tiny. Hulk would bury him." Because, of course, I hadn't discovered that wrestling was fake yet. I was, a kid. And, well, not fake, but, choreographed. And I didn't really understand, why people were so enamored with Ric Flair until I saw the Ric Flair Sting match for the first Clash of the Champions. And that's when I started to understand why people thought Ric Flair was such a big deal. I didn't really care too much for the Ruthless Aggression era, no. Because once WWE didn't have any competition, it was somehow less exciting to me. I don't really care where they take Kratos after that. Everyone keeps saying Egypt, Egypt, Egypt. I'd rather see him, Egypt's been done to death. You know, I mean, Assassin's Creed already did Egypt. I'd like to see him go to Aztec, fight Quetzalcoatl and all those weird screwed up gods the Aztecs had. Now that might be something. Who was the best general manager in WWE? I don't know. General manager was like a nothing character, really. And I never cared for John Cena. Never cared for John Cena. As far as I was concerned, John Cena was just another Hulk Hogan. I like Randy Orton all right. I like Batista better as an actor than a wrestler. There wasn't really that much to excite me during the Ruthless Aggression era. Just is what it is. That's the second time you posted that tonight, Skyricius. Kratos should go to North America and face off Paul Bunyan and Uncle Sam. Except that Paul Bunyan and Uncle Sam were just, tall tales. They weren't worshipped as gods. I'd watch CM Punk on the indie scene for the most part, and Ring of Honor and all that. Once it got to WWE, aside from watching his promos, I didn't really watch him that much. Did you ever like Triple H? The only time I ever liked Triple H was the shenanigans he'd get into with Shawn Michaels during the DX period. That's it. As a wrestler, never really cared for him. Just say Paul Bearer. There, I said it. Kratos could fight Columbia. Okay. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Oh! Uh-oh! Uh-oh! One hour remaining. We've had $15 in donations. We are $35 short of the 10 o'clock goal. I still would have liked to have seen Undertaker versus Sting if they had been able to pull it off like around, I don't know. If they had convinced Sting to come over to WWE back when it was first acquired, that would have been some great stuff. No Ultra Steel, I don't remember that. Would you rather see Kratos battle Samson or Achilles? Samson was not a god. Samson was just a man who was blessed by God. You will never see Kratos, fighting Yahweh. You will never see Kratos fighting Allah. You'll never see Kratos fighting Jesus. It's not going to happen. People would deem that too offensive. They're only going to do Kratos going up against gods from dead religions or dead mythologies, like Greek, like Roman, like Norse. Although, believe it or not, there still are some people out there that, believe in Thor and Odin and all that stuff. But it would be interesting to have a Samson video game. That would be interesting. God, my neck and back. Jesus. That is painful. 7th, you're very open and diverse to what you watch. You ever afraid of anything sucking and staying inside a certain bubble of what you're comfortable liking? No. I'm always trying new things. 10, 15 years ago, I never would have sat and watched something like Breaking Bad. A TV show about making drugs? Nah. And for the most part, I still don't watch stuff like that. Like Narcos, I haven't watched a single episode of it because it just doesn't interest me. But for what, I had so many people tell me to watch Breaking Bad, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch it, and I liked it. But, I'm a lot more open to trying new things than I would have been 10, 15 years ago. Like, 10, 15 years ago, my choices in anime was basically looking for the really dark, gritty, bloody stuff like Berserk, Fist of the North Star, that kind of thing. It wasn't until a few years ago where I started being willing to watch the more comedic stuff. Would you ever bungee jump? Nope. Best and worst Rick Moranis films. Best Rick Moranis film, Ghostbusters. Worst Rick Moranis film, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. 7th, would you ever... I already answered that. Hey, Toke64, look up. Yet another play on words. I'm surprised you didn't try to get me to read that out loud. Tokes is a play on words. If you put Lou and skunt together, you get loose C word. No, Shadow, I don't think I will. I wish I was as open as you. I mean, I'm open to watching stuff that's recommended to me, but I have a hard time searching for it myself. I just get in moods. I'll be like, I'd like to watch a gangster movie, but I've already seen The Godfather, and I've already seen Goodfellas, and I've already seen Casino. I'm going to find something else, and I'll go watch one. I'll go find one. I'll go dig one up. But, part of it is just getting exposed to things that from being around other people. Like my ex-wife, the first one that I was actually legally married to, she of course was big on rom-coms. And because of, I've never cared about rom-coms, but because of her, there are a couple that, I didn't dislike. One of which was with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, You Got Mail. Although I didn't like When Harry Met Sally very much. Which of course, Meg Ryan and that other guy. Have fun storming the castle. That guy, he was in it. And I didn't like Sleepless in Seattle, but for some reason I liked You Got Mail. I don't know why. And I liked Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman was funny, but probably not for the reasons that my wife thought it was funny. So a lot of it just has to do with who you're hanging out with at the time. Have you seen Indian in the Cupboard? Yeah, didn't like it. Little Shop of Horrors was pretty good, yeah. Amy Hennig is a writer for... Yeah, I know. Has your magic powers ever backfired? Wouldn't that mean that a fart came out of my mouth? That wouldn't have been pleasant. Have you seen Copland? Oh, with Sylvester Stallone? Yeah, it's a good movie. I don't really get into politics on this stream, Shadow. Seventh, which Murray film would you recommend more? What About Bob or Scrooged? Oh, I like What About Bob way more than Scrooged. Way more. I love What About Bob. Scrooged I might watch once a year. I finally got my cake. Creepshow. I love Creepshow. I love how bad Stephen King's acting is in the Jody Merrill section. Meteor shit. His line delivery and that kills me every time. Meteor shit. I love it. He's looking at his fingers. Meteor shit. He is such, I haven't read any of his like more recent books. I've really enjoyed his writing ever since I was a kid. But man, he can't act his way out of a paper bag. Good God. I didn't like Creepshow 2 as much as Creepshow 1 because it had fewer stories in it. I think Creepshow 1 had like 5 and Creepshow 2 only had 3, something like that. I didn't feel like I was getting my Creepshow money worth. But on top of that, I just think the original Creepshow was more fun. It was more fun than the second one. Have any of you watched the Creepshow series on Shudder yet? I kind of like it because they've been doing more stories based on Stephen King short stories. Like they did, there's a short story that I've always loved that was in his Night Shift collection called Gray Matter, and it was about this guy that got some contaminated beer, and it turned him into some kind of blob monster. And they actually did an episode of the Creepshow series based on that short story. So that was really fun. You ever watch Attack on Titan? I watched the first season of Attack on Titan, and then for whatever reason, I haven't watched any more of it after that. I don't know why. I just lost interest in it. Tales from the Dark Side. Yeah, I like Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. It also had a scene in it that was based on a Stephen King short story. It was the one that ended with the cat crawling into the dude in the wheelchair's mouth or whatever. That's from a Stephen King short story. But I liked that one. I liked the bit that had Christian Slater and the whole mummy thing. I think it was Christian Slater. Well, Clean Frame, that wouldn't have been backfired. That would have been more like rapid fired. That would have been like, switch from semi to fully automatic, if you get my drift. R.L. Stine versus Stephen King. Come on, R.L. Stine wasn't scary. Ever seen House Party? The original one, way back in the day. I haven't seen this remake that came out recently. I will tell you this. This shows you how out of it I've been. I only realized last week that season 2 of Wu-Tang was out. And they had already put up 4 episodes by the time I realized that the new season had started. And so I marathoned those 4 episodes. Yeah, little known fact about 7th here. Big Wu-Tang fan. Love Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang and Old Dirty Bastard. Haven't gotten so much into the other solo albums that the others have done. But, core Wu-Tang albums and Old Dirty Bastard. Love that stuff. So I'm really enjoying the Wu-Tang show. I mean, I know some of it's made up. Like, in reality, RZA had like 11 siblings or something like that, and he had several sisters, and they've combined all of them into one sister just to make it easier to follow, that kind of thing. And I kind of doubt that RZA, shot a guy to get his demo tapes back. Yeah, I know he shot this other dude in the leg, and he almost got thrown in jail for that. But I seriously doubt he actually straight up murdered a dude to get his demo tapes back. I don't think that actually happened. That Darn Cat? I've seen both versions of That Darn Cat, the original and the weird remake they made in the 90s, and they both kind of suck. Shining Force. I've played Shining Force and Shining Force 2, Shining Force CD. I had Shining Force, or a Shining Force game, I think, for Game Boy Advance. And I've played 2 Shining Force games that were on PS2 that were garbage. One of them was called Shining Force Neo, and I don't remember what the other one was called, but they both sucked because neither of them were turn-based strategy games. They weren't strategy RPGs. They were something else. Have you noticed that cartoons and anime nowadays aren't well drawn like shows from the 90s? I think it depends on the show. Trilogy of Terror with the little African statue that stabs. Oh, the little doll. The little African doll that come to life. Yeah. Do you pass out candy during Halloween? Not for a few years, no. Favorite remake to a movie? The Thing. Wu-Tang is legendary. Yes, they are. Best rap band in history. Best ever. And I say that knowing that I also liked NWA, especially Ice Cube. Wu-Tang was better. Do you think we'll get another Jason film? It's been 11 years. I don't know. Hasn't been 11 years. The remake of Friday the 13th wasn't 11 years ago, was it? Surely it hasn't been that long ago, has it? Already? Oh, yeah, it has. 2009. I thought it was more recent than that. Good God, I'm getting old. I did not think that movie was 11 years old. Jesus. Have you ever heard of a game called Corpse Party? Yes. I used to have it on Vita. But it's one of the ones that the second Mrs. 7th took with her when I moved to Texas. Do you think Disney will lose the... I think you meant Predator. I don't know. Method Man. Method Man is good too. Here's a little thing. Believe it or not, I have never seen How High. Never seen it. It being a stoner comedy, you would think I would have watched it by now. Never seen it. Maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Thoughts on drama? I don't care. I don't care what other YouTubers do. I could not give less of a crap. If she's 20 years old, that means she's legal. That means she's old enough to, do whatever she wants with whoever she wants that's 18 or older. So to me, it's kind of a non issue. I have multiple PSPs, Tokes. We still like PSP over here. Still like PS Vita. We have multiple Vitas too. What's your favorite metal or new metal bands? Well, new metal. Breaking Benjamin's usually pretty much the only one that I listen to regularly. Although there was a band called Dope that I kind of liked a few years ago. I liked Dope. Uh, Regular metal, depends on the subgenre. If you're talking hair metal, you know the there's the staples like Def Leppard, Motley Crue, some newer bands out of Sweden like Hardcore Superstar, that kind of thing. I love Hardcore Superstar. They're a great band. Have you ever seen Wishmaster 2? Yes. I didn't really like any of the Wishmaster movies. I thought they were kind of stupid. Were you ever into ska music? Oh, like the Boss Tones and Less Than Jake and all that kind of... Yeah. I liked Less Than Jake all right. Didn't really get into the others that much. And Less Than Jake was not as ska as some of the other bands that were more, big into it. How much can you bench press? I don't know. I mean, back in the day when I was in high school, I think the most I ever benched was 250. I couldn't tell you how much I'd bench now. No idea. I have a weightlifting thing out in the garage, but it only goes up to like 150 pounds, so well, that's how I treated Eighth Ultra Steel. I always talked to Eighth as I would any other adult. I mean, I didn't use profanity around him when I was a kid, but I would talk to Eighth like I'm talking to you now. Do you like the Meet the Fokker films? Not really. No. Mr. Crowley, that song is crazy. What, Ozzy Osbourne? Can't go wrong with Ozzy. Although that what was that album? The album that came out after No More Tears. The one that had Perry Mason on it. I didn't care for that album all that much. Did you like the Night at the Museum films? No. I liked Robin Williams in them, but that was about it. That and one line. There was one line in those movies that would make me consistently laugh, and that line was "Me want gum 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 dum dum." That was the only line that would make me laugh. Was that Tiki God? Me want gum gum dum dum. Give me some gum gum dum dum. Oh, my goodness, my goodness. Who is worse as an evil influence, Ozzy or Marilyn Manson? I mean, it's all theatrics for the most part. You know, Ozzy, Marilyn Manson, Alice Cooper, they're all kind of cut from the same cloth, more or less. I mean, really, the only difference between them is how much of an a-hole they were in real life. I mean, you know, Ozzy was a drunk that did dumb things, but, you know, I don't think he did some of the stuff that they're saying Marilyn Manson has done now. And frickin' Alice Cooper, you know, he's gone back to become a Christian again. He's re-embraced his faith from his youth. So, what's your favorite one-hit wonder music-wise? I don't know. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I guess maybe that song by SR-71, because it's the only song that I ever heard by SR-71. I'm not a huge fan of Ben Stiller. I liked Tropic Thunder. You know, Tropic Thunder was fun, but there's not been that many what you would consider a Ben Stiller comedy that I've cared much for. I liked Tropic Thunder, and I liked There's Something About Mary. That's about it. Would you agree that Ren and Stimpy was not a kids friendly show? Well, the original one really walked the line. They were always trying to break through boundaries there. It's just that when it came back on TNN as Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Show or whatever it was called, that was not really the same show that you watched on Nickelodeon when you were a kid, because it didn't have any of the restrictions that the Nickelodeon version did. And so because of that, you had, you know, Big Bear naked titties bouncing around and stuff like that. Favorite Bunny M song? I have no idea who that is. Did you ever like that 80s song Eyes Without a Face? Billy Idol. Billy Idol. And I think it was a cover of an older song, but I can't be quite sure of that. It was either a cover or it was a reference to something else, like a novella or a short story or something. Did you like Anger Management? Goose Fraba. Yeah, Anger Management was pretty good. Do you think the Will Ferrell movie Land of the Lost was a huge disappointment? It was totally all over the place from what I remember. I wasn't disappointed in it because I knew, it being Will Ferrell, that it was not going to be a direct reboot of Land of the Lost. That it was going to be like a comedic take on Land of the Lost. So I went into it knowing what it was going to be. So I wasn't all that disappointed in it. Do you think The Net with Sandra Bullock was underrated? No, I didn't like that movie that much because I was already working in IT when that movie came out, and so I sat through it just kind of incredulous, like, that's not how that works. This is dumb. Which, Hackers was the same way. You watch Hackers and you're like, come on. But it was done in such a stylized way that it's still fun to watch. The Net, not so much. What's that other you saying Babylon made me think of something else. What's that other new metal band that I really like besides Breaking Benjamin? Volbeat. I really like Volbeat. I like Volbeat a lot. They're a great freaking band. Love Volbeat. I love that song they do, Leviathan. Leviathan's awesome. That's a great song. Are you tired of The Matrix? Kinda. Yeah, been there, done that. Don't know why they're bringing it back, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Did you play or read the short story I Have No Mouth But I'm a Scream? Oh, Harlan Ellison. It's a Harlan Ellison short story. It was written. Harlan Ellison was the same guy who wrote the script that the episode of Star Trek City on the Edge of Forever was based on. Although the final shooting script was a lot different than the one that he turned in. But that's actually one of his biggest claims to fame, was that he was the writer of the City on the Edge of Forever, even though technically he wasn't really, because they rewrote it to where it was, barely even similar to what he turned in. But, yes, I read it many, many years ago. Don't really remember that much about it. And yes, I played the PC game back in the day. It was pretty cool. It was kind of ahead of its time in a number of ways, really, as I recall. Ever watch Surviving R. Kelly? No. Couldn't care less about R. Kelly. There's only two reasons that I even know who R. Kelly is. One, I believe I can fly, because I had to take I had to take my girlfriend's kid to see Space Jam at the movie theater. And two, was because of Chappelle's Show and I Want to Pee on You. That's the only reasons why I even know who R. Kelly is. I don't really care, Tokes. I don't really follow sports all that much, son. I just don't do it. I don't care about boxing. I don't care about football, baseball. I haven't watched basketball since Michael Jordan retired. I'm not. I never was as big into sports as like my old man was. My old man always watched football, and the only time I ever watched football was to watch the Super Bowl with him, because he wanted me to watch it with him, even though he knew I wasn't into sports, which I feel was always kind of a disappointment for him, that I wasn't this, outdoorsy, sporty kid like he was growing up. And so he thought he'd have a son and we go hunting together and we go do this and do that. And that wasn't me. I was a product of my generation. I was more into technical stuff, video games and computers and stuff. I did like going to the firing range and the archery range, and on occasion we'd go fishing together. But as far as like, hunting deer and camping out and watching the football game and all that, that never was me. Do you think Cobra Kai season 4 will be the last one? Probably, considering, Netflix's success rate so far with shows that they've put out. Thoughts on Bill Nye, the so-called science guy? Never got into him. When I was a kid, it wasn't Bill Nye. It was Mr. Wizard on Nickelodeon. Do you think everyone has an embarrassing secret in one form or another? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Goes without saying. Did you like the Nutty Professors movies by Eddie Murphy? I liked pieces of them. I go back and watch them, and they're kind of hit and miss with me. There's only bits and pieces of them that I like. Of course, I always like the fart jokes because I'm a fart joke guy, and I like Dave Chappelle's character as the obnoxious, shitty stand-up comic in the first one. But that's about it. I think it was the first one. 7th, did Nintendo make a mistake not doing the deal with Sony to make the Nintendo PlayStation? Not really. I think they made a mistake in the way they handled it. But, I think Nintendo would have been fine whether they'd ever entered into that deal with Sony or not. We're down to the last 30 minutes, folks, and we're $35 short. So get your questions in. Get your questions in. 7th, did you like The Road to El Dorado by DreamWorks? It was okay. I did not like it nearly as much as Prince of Egypt. To me, Prince of Egypt was the best hand-drawn movie that DreamWorks ever did. Fantastic movie. Road to El Dorado was okay. The worst one that they did, I think, as far as hand-drawn movies, was Sinbad. Sinbad was a seriously missed opportunity. Why the Batman movies never feature the ninja Batman that could never catch named Kyodai? I don't know. I don't know. Guess because maybe they thought that just wouldn't go over in theaters. What'd you think of the Stepfather remake? I didn't watch it because I barely liked the original. Who is your top 3 favorite comedians of all time? Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, and number 1, George Carlin. Oh, and there's one more. There's one more. A guy that a lot of y'all probably haven't heard of. He was like the precursor to the whole blue-collar comedy tour group. You know, Jeff Foxworthy and all those guys. He was doing that kind of stuff way before they did. He's a guy named James Gregory. Calls himself the funniest man in America. And I grew up listening and watching James Gregory. He's like my favorite Southern comic. So I'd say top 4. Yeah, and I'm sure some of y'all would watch him and be like, oh, this is really basic stuff. You just had to be a Southerner to appreciate him. James Gregory. Might be a law, could be a law, I don't know. Sometime in the past. Like, these are the kind of jokes that he would do. Here's one of his jokes. He'd say, next time you're shopping at the supermarket, go look for a can of Gillette Foamy. And he'd say, turn around the can and look on the back of the can of Gillette Foamy, and you'll see a sign that says, please do not use near open flame. And he'd say, you know what that means, don't you? Sometime in the past, some nut has said to his wife, honey, I think I'll sit in the fireplace to shave. That was James Gregory. Would it be a good idea for someone with ADHD to drive a Ford Focus? Why would I get what you're trying to say there, but that's kind of a James Gregory joke, really. I mean, I used to like Gallagher back in the day, but he kind of got old, you know? And I don't just mean physically old. I mean, his act kind of got old. And he's another one that, from a certain extent, you have to be a Southerner to appreciate him, to a certain extent. Have I done shrooms? No. Do you have a favorite memory of Norm Macdonald? Not especially. Not especially. Most of my memories of him were from Saturday Night Live. You know, I never watched a whole lot of his stand-up or whatever. Sinbad was bad, huh? I didn't think it was good. Have you played anything good on Game Pass lately? Psychonauts 2 is okay. It's pretty good. You still burn out on zombies? Yes. 7th, I have a dumb question. Do you think we will be abducted by aliens in the future? No. Do you like Milton Berle? Yes, I like Milton Berle. I don't like Milton Berle as much as I liked Don Rickles, though. Don Rickles was great at roasts. If you ever, I know some of you like to watch the Comedy Central roasts. You ought to go on YouTube and look up Don Rickles roasts, because he was brutal, man. He wasn't raunchy, but he was brutal. Tokes, since you like to get into a lot of the religion stuff, here's a thought for you. This is a what if for you to ponder. This is a what if. What if all of this alien stuff is bullshit? And it's all made up by the governments of the world, right? So that if and when Christianity turned out to be true and the rapture happened, they'd be able to say, we've had a mass alien abduction. And that's how they would cover it up. Instead of admitting that Christianity was the one true religion and that Christ had just sucked a bunch of Christians up into space, they could cover it up by saying it was an alien abduction. Think about that one for a bit. There's nothing funnier than dry stand-up comedy. Dry stand-up comedy, I mean, there's all sorts of different styles of stand-up comedy, but I do occasionally like a good dry comic. Is Psychonauts 2 better than Ripped Apart? I wouldn't say that either one of them is better than the other because they're both 3D platformers, and that's about where the similarities end. Although, you know, I'm pretty sure that Ratchet and Clank as a series had rail sliding in it before Psychonauts did. But other than that, they're just two different styles of 3D platformers. Did you hear that the military were trying to make anti-aging pills? No, I have not heard that. No, I meant exactly what I said, Shadow Deist, because it says that Christ will appear in the clouds and the whole world will see them, and then Christians will just disappear. Actually, it says that first the dead in Christ will appear, and then those still on earth who are Christians will disappear. But that it'll all start with the sounding of the horns, and then Christ will appear in the clouds. And that the whole world will see him there. And then, boom. But the government, even if people had it on film and Christ was floating up in the air and they had it on YouTube where people had filmed it, U.S. government, aliens! Now you know why we established Space Force. Hi, 7th. I don't know what happened, but what happened to 8th's car crash? They got T-boned. 8th's friend was making a left at a light, and guy ran a light and hit him. It wasn't a real T-bone because they got out from behind. They got out from in front of him enough to where all he hit was the back bumper, so it basically just spun him around like this. If it had been a full-on T-bone, 8th probably wouldn't be here today. So, very fortunate. Well, the Bible never says anything about God creating life on other worlds. But at the same time, you know, you would think that we would have more evidence of it by now than, people saying they were abducted or, footage of what looks like frisbees on strings in people's backyard and stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff that, ooh, look at this UFO sighting, ends up being, CGI film student films that got released on YouTube and touted as real and stuff like that. So, my batteries went dead. Seventh, in Christianity, do you know if you can get your soul back if you sell it to the devil? If you read the Bible, you're not going to find anything about selling your soul to the devil. selling your soul to the devil was a concept that is not really supported biblically. That's more stuff that comes from external sources like Faust and stuff like that. What about ghosts and haunted places, Seventh? What about them? Are you asking me if ghosts are aliens? No. I think it's time we should start preparing exactly how we are going to get into heaven before it's too late. Well, as far as I know, there's only one way to get there. And you can't get there on purpose, if you know what I mean. Did you like the show 100? The 100. I haven't watched it. Do you subscribe to the Witch Mountain theory that aliens would be humanoid because another survivable planet would have to be similar to Earth? I would only believe in that if it turned out that both planets were seeded by a common third race. So, some race flew over Earth, dropped a couple of humanoids, flew over to another planet, dropped a couple of humanoids, and then, they became similar creatures. They both look like humans, basically. I would believe that. But just some other planet that has similar atmosphere and everything to Earth, just evolving a race that looked just like humans, no. No. I think if there was any kind of alien life out there, it'd be so different from us that we wouldn't even be able to recognize it as life. We wouldn't even perceive it as being alive. What's the most RAM you've used on a computer? 32 gigs. About selling your soul to the devil. Satan wants people to believe you can't get right with God and repent. All I'm saying is that there's nothing in the Old or New Testament about selling your soul to the devil. That's a concept that came post-biblically. It's not in. There's no stories of selling your soul. There's stories of possession, but there's no stories of someone signing in blood with the devil. You can have my soul in hell. Just make me rich. It's not in there. It's not in there. I mean, think about it. If you're a Christian and you believe that Satan exists, Satan doesn't have to buy souls from anybody. People are crawling over each other hand over fist to get there. Why would he have to sell them anything? They willingly leap into it of their own free accord by living the life that they lead. He doesn't have to buy anything. And damn, you vape a lot. Do I? I mainly do it a lot during the cast because I get bored. And when I get bored, I have to have something to do with my hands. And so I just start popping the stuff off without thinking about it. And plus, I'm out of drink. And so when I don't have a glass to pick up and sip, I end up picking this up instead. But, I'm not really deeply inhaling it. I'm not holding it in for a while. If you'll notice, I'm just quickly blowing it out. So it's not even getting that deep down in there. Thoughts on agents from the devil like Joel Osteen and Richard Dawkins? I saw a funny meme about Joel Osteen the other day, and it was like, have any of you noticed that Joel Osteen looks like Martin Short trying to impersonate Tim Allen? And it had this picture of him, and ever since I saw that, I can't unsee it. Do you think Emily Rose was really possessed? Well, for one thing, her name wasn't Emily Rose. It was uh, Annalise Michelle or something like that. I want to say she was German. It was in Germany or somewhere. It was over in Europe somewhere. And I don't know. That movie was very loosely based on a true story. Very loosely based. Do you own a motorcycle? No. Tokes thought I owned a motorcycle because I had a cycle jacket. Because Tokes said, it likes to get on his Harley and rev it up and get the vroom vroom, that sensation that he likes so much. Talking about, he's basically implying I had a pussy and I was using a motorcycle to masturbate myself. But Tokes is funny, man. You ever tried G Fuel? No, way too much sugar and caffeine and crap. No, I don't do energy drinks. Not good for your heart. When's your next vape re-up? I don't know. Next week sometime, I guess. Are you hyped for the new Halo? Nope. Kenneth Copeland looks like a Doom Marauder based on the... I never really thought of it that way, but that's probably another one that I'm not going to be able to unsee. I remember one I used to watch when I was a teenager. They called him the Walking Bible. His name was Jack Van Impe or something like that, and he had the entire Bible memorized. He could name off like any verse, chapter, page, blah, blah, blah. And I watched him because, I thought it was funny that every time there was some major world event, he would attribute it to some prophecy in the Bible, and then some new, 6 months, a year down the road, some new catastrophic event would happen, and he'd attribute that one to the same verse. Like we weren't supposed to notice that. And I remember his wife was named Raxella, and she was like, she was, old like him, but didn't look like somebody who would marry someone who looked like him. I watched Jack Van Impe late at night on like Saturday nights after SNL when I was a teenager. Maybe enjoy a little herb while I was watching him, Yeah, Tokes was just get on your Harley, get that vroom vroom, get that sensation you like so much. I will never forget that video, ever. I'm sorry, Tokes, but I'll never forget it. That was one of the funniest things. I laughed so much. And I know when you made it, you were kind of being serious, that you were really mad at me. But, I got such a good laugh out of that, and I still look back on it fondly. I really enjoyed it. I know you didn't mean for me to enjoy it at the time, but, I really had fun with that. What about the preachers who touch the sick people and say you're healed? I think the ones that are on TV are BS, especially guys like Benny Hinn. But I've legitimately seen people healed at church. I'm one of them. I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was a kid. And the church started a prayer chain on me. And a month later, I was one of the only documented cases of spontaneous remission in the state of Tennessee, and it never came back, ever. And we had first, second, third, fourth opinions. They were getting ready to, my parents were about to ship my butt off to St. Jude's. And we just had a bunch, we had several church sessions where people would, they laid me on the altar, literally, and people would come by and just pray. And a month later, gone, never came back. So don't make too much a light of it. You can make fun of the ones on TV all you want. But as far as the concept of God healing a person, don't laugh about it too much. Like when Barron said you were, yeah. He said I was a member of a white supremacist group because I had stated in a video that I didn't like Atlanta, that I didn't enjoy living in Atlanta. And I explained to him I didn't like living in Atlanta because traffic was terrible and it'd take you an hour to get anywhere, no matter whether you lived north or south of the city. Everything was at least a 30-minute drive. And going through downtown Atlanta, only the tourist parts of it, like the Coca-Cola Museum, were clean, and the rest of it was just nasty. Never once, when I was talking about how much I disliked living outside of Atlanta, did race ever come up. But because I said I disliked Atlanta, I was a member of a white supremacist group. And so then he's like, oh, and you live in North Carolina, and they, North Carolina has KKK rallies, and that's when I turned around and made that funeral for Black Baron, and I as Reverend 7th, and I had to remind him of the fact that the KKK, its history started in Georgia. And its biggest rally in history was in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And on and on and on. And it's just Georgia, 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 KKK, KKK. And, I pretty much, absolutely straight up buried him in that video. And he never replied to it. Ever. In fact, he kind of stopped making videos for a while. And he came back briefly and was making sports videos, and then he disappeared again for a while, and now he's on AEW and doesn't acknowledge that I exist anymore. I wonder why. Did I ever play MUDs? Way back in the day, I tried them out. I remember I played one that was based on Vampire the Masquerade, I think. The console wars are crazy. I laugh at it now. We were all cuckoo as hell. Yes, we were. Always trying to outdo one another. Used to see Justin Peter expose all the... Talking about all the fake TV preachers. Yeah. I think Benny Hinn was one of the worst. That and that guy that they caught him using an earpiece. And his wife was feeding him information through this earpiece. He was the one that faked growing a dude's leg. Made it, used some old magician trickery to make it look like the guy's leg was getting longer on TV. It's pretty funny. 7th, will you be J.A. Allen's friend always and forever? Always and forever. Yes. Always. I haven't heard from him in a long time now. He's been extremely busy. Working on, music with his new band and everything. I try to keep in touch with him, but it can be hard. I already talked about Deathloop. Deathloop is like a 4-hour game that's been extended to about 9 or 10 hours by forcing you to replay the same 4 levels over and over. That's what Deathloop is. It has been proven that the afterlife exists. Well, I believe in the afterlife, but I haven't ever seen any absolute concrete proof of the existence of the afterlife, aside from the fact that I've personally seen ghosts walking around. But, I've never had a near-death experience or anything like that. I haven't seen any what you would call peer-reviewed scientific proof of the existence of an afterlife. But I believe in one because of the experiences I've had. No, I've never had an out-of-body experience. If astral projection was actually a thing, I would probably get so addicted to it that I'd die of malnutrition because I'd always be off somewhere else outside my body. If that actually existed and you could really do it, and it wasn't just, a glorified drug trip. No, never had sleep paralysis either. Oddly enough, I make fun of Black Baron all the time for being AEW's Barry Horowitz, because they're basically using him to make other wrestlers look good. He never blocks me. He might have me muted for all I know, but he never blocks me. And it's a shame because I think he's a talented professional wrestler. I think he could do better in AEW, but for whatever reason, they just keep using him as enhancement talent. And that's why I joke around with him and call him, AEW's Barry Horowitz or AEW's Iron Mike Sharp. I went way back with that one. Yeah, I've heard about remote viewing. That's what that whole, if you ever get a chance to read the book or watch the movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, it's all about remote viewing. It's a fun movie, too. And I've read the book. Ah, crap, it's 9 o'clock. We've gone 3 hours, and we did not make it to $50. Y'all know what that means. Y'all know what that means. Unfortunately, this is where I have to close up shop for the night, guys. We didn't make it. We didn't make it. It is what it is. I will endeavor to be back next week. Hopefully, I'll be able to pull that off. And, I'll try to get some videos made. I have a bunch of footage that I've captured of various different games that I'll try and get actually posted as videos. And, I will see you on the next 7th cast. Hopefully, same 7th time, same 7th channel. Be sweet, y'all. And thanks for stopping by, Tokes. Appreciate it.